Hey guys, as you can see by the first part of this video, we have another Polymoog restoration here. Unfortunately, I didn't get to bring you guys along the full adventure, but I took all those pictures and hopefully that gives you a good idea of kind of what happened to this one. But went through it, restored it, all the way down to the keyboard as you saw, went through all the circuit boards, upgraded things, replaced all common failure trained components, full calibration, 12-hour burn-in, and I'm very happy with it. I think you're going to be very happy with it as well, Michael. Even putting new wood grain on it, as you saw in the pictures. I know it's kind of cheesy sounding putting fake vinyl wood on an instrument, but that was the era. You know, that's kind of what they did in the 70s. So I try to stick to it as much as I can. But anyways, as you can see, it cleaned up really good. Just go down the interface here, let you see this thing. It cleaned up really good. You can just kind of see the interface there. Took all the sliders apart, flushed them, lubed them. So got rid of all that Moog foam in these things. Also, I redid the poly pedal. So here's your poly pedal. And you can see how to show you everything lights up here. So there's all your controls all lit up there. But went through it, just did a good full service on it and cleaned it up so it looks as good as the Polymoog does. And got it functioning like it's supposed to. And I'm just really happy with it. I'll take you around back here. It's going around here. Here's your other side of the wood grain vinyl. Cleaned and conditioned the plastics really good. As you can see, I've got a lot of inputs and outputs here going on. So this is all your poly pedal, and I'm actually doing a individual outputs mix for this video. So you guys will get to hear this thing in a split situation where I got things panned a little bit, and I'm also testing out a new mixer I got. So we'll be testing that out as well. The sticker's got a little damage on it. Unfortunately, I don't have any more of these stickers, so it's got a little damage, but nothing bad. You can see it actually carries on out from the top. At some point, this thing took a scratch. Your serial number 3064. So there's your serial number. And just cleaned everything up really good. And here's the mixer we're going to be using. I've actually bought an Allen Heath. It's just a ZI-10FX. Just a little small mixer just for the shop here. But I like it because it has USB capability, so I can plug it into a computer and do little quick recordings when I have ideas. Just a scratch pad mixer. So use it for that as well. But we're going to see how that works with this this setup. I've had it, but I hadn't really used all the channels on it, and so we're just going to see how it does here. But anyways, let me put the camera on the tripod here, and I'll make you guys a sound demo. Alright, so anyways, I'm just going to start first with a good direct output, just a good Polymoog sound with everything kind of combined in your oscillator section. Just kind of give you a good idea of how this thing sounds now, and I'll break it down and show you the individual oscillators and all the notes work, etc. here. So anyways, here's just a good sound. So anyways, you can get the idea of how this thing sounds now with all the oscillators combined and everything. That's just direct output. And I was playing with the rank tune and the footages of the oscillators and the modulation, as you kind of heard as I was playing there. But anyways, we'll start and break it down by the waveforms now, just to show you that all notes are working. We'll turn all the modulations off. So it's going to be just a flat, unmodulated sawtooth first of all. So here's your sawtooth. So there's your sawtooth on all notes. Now we'll go to the variable pulse wave here. And I'll show you that all notes work with it. So there's all your square waves and your sawtooth. You can combine them together. That they are combined together without any kind of modulation going on. We'll go back to the sawtooth real quick, and I'll show you that your footage does work, even though you kind of heard it already. So you got an 8 and 4 footage. As you can see, we've got the rank tune for sawtooth, which you've already heard me use, but I'll show you the range. As you can hear, there's your rank tune. We got the frequency modulation, we got the amount as well as the rate. So we're going to give it a little bit of rate here. So you can hear, so there's your frequency modulation. And that's really your sawtooth. That's really all you get. You do have a mix control here for upper and lower. And this allows you to bring in the sawtooth at a higher volume than the variable pulse. Because as sometimes you select waveforms, you will hear a little decrease in volume, and that's kind of normal for these things, the way it's designed. So here's your sawtooth mix. That's your upper, and here's your lower. Typically it sets around 5 when it's an equal mix. So that's your sawtooth. Then we got the variable pulse wave. You got an 8 and 16 footage for it instead of 8 and 4. As you can hear, we got the same thing. We got a frequency modulation. Now this one gets a little bit more interesting because you have a shape for upper and lower. So we can get into a pulse wave. Same thing for the lower. So right now you hear it's still a square wave. This is where your key split happens. But you've also got you got a pulse width modulation as well. So we can set our pulse width, and we can bring up our amount as your lower. And it's got its independent LFO for the rate of your pulse width. So that's your lower. Here's your upper. Now the upper and lower does share the same LFO, but you got a mount control. So right now you can hear we have modulation on the upper keys. Not on these lower keys. We can bring that back in. And there's our modulation of that. On top of that, we can combine it with the frequency modulation. And you get some very interesting harmonics. Then you combine the sawtooth back with it. we still have the frequency modulation turned off for the sawtooth, so now we can bring it up and then get even more crazy modulation. So you get something like that. So that's your section of your oscillators. You do also have this lock and free mode, and I'll bring this up real quick. So what this free and lock mode button does, it actually locks your reference oscillators so they both oscillators share one frequency modulation. So we could, for example, right now, here it is with it free. If we hit lock, you can hear they both share the sawtooth modulation. And that's really handy if you want something to be uniform between the two oscillators. Versus that. And we still have our variable, we have our pulse width modulation going on still on its own as well. We can cut that off. That's in lock and this is free. So you can kind of see how all that works there. So that's really the oscillator section of this unit. And then we got the loudness control, which you've already heard me play a little bit with here. But we can set everything to 0, and all you'll have is just a nice little, quick little blip. Bring up sustain. You can see we have no release. We can bring up the release. And this is where the Polymoog gets very interesting. I'm going to go set up a good sound here right quick. Let's make it more entertaining here. So what makes the Polymoog so great too is it has unlimited polyphony. So this is where you'll really see that happen. So we can and you can bring it all the way up to release, and you'll just get a constant sustain on all notes, which is very interesting. So as you can see, it can get pretty wild when you turn that thing all the way up. And of course you see me hit this button here a lot, and actually since we got the poly pedal I can explain this even better. So this is your final decay lock and manual. So you'll see that when you're in manual mode, you won't have any release. What it's actually looking for in manual mode is looking for the sustain pedal on the poly pedal. So if I hit the sustain pedal and I'm still in manual mode, when you're locked, the sustain pedal won't do anything. It's actually looking at the setup at your front interface. So that's just like we don't have the like we have the sustain pedal pressed down. What happens when you stay in lock though is things just kind of bleed up. So if we was to turn this all the way up, you start gradually hearing things just kind of start sustaining, like Phantom of the Opera kind of stuff. As you can already kind of start hearing it there. It'll just get louder and louder and louder. So if you hit this button, it cleans it right up. So it's just a good way to show that with the poly pedal. So that's your decay release. We got the attack. So if we go here, we can set our attack. Now one thing to note too, by the design of the way the controller works in this thing, when you turn attack up, it does affect your volume, your overall volume. And same thing with your decay release and your sustain. They all affect the volume overall. So if we go here, I can show you the dynamics real quick. We'll bring the sustain down a little bit, and then we can set the attack up just a little bit, and we'll bring up just a little bit of keyboard dynamic here. And what that'll do, that'll give us actually a dynamic response of the keys. And of course, the more dynamics you put on it, the less you hear the effect of it, because you'll eventually get to a point it's just got hard dynamics. Of course, your sustain level and all that affects your overall dynamics as well. So as you can hear, you can kind of hear your dynamics there. Bring it all back up here a little bit. Our decay release down just a hair. So there's our decay release and our loudness control section there. So you can hear I can hit that manual button, it cleans it right up. So that's really the synthesizer section of this thing. I will show you the presets right quick. We'll go to, we'll stay in direct output. So here's your presets in direct output. Now once again, volume is kind of weird on these things, and it's that way on all Polymoogs. So here's your strings. Then we got piano. We got organ. We got harpsichord. Funk. Clavichord. We got Vox Humana, that's vibes. I reprogrammed this and have preset 7 is Vox Humana. So there's Vox Humana. Then we got brass. So we got stuff like that. And then we got the mode filters. And I'll go back to the presets, and what this does, it gives your presets a simulation filter to simulate like strings, piano, organ. And they're kind of dated. Probably the best one in the thing is actually piano, but I'll kind of show you the sound. So here's strings. Once again, you can edit these in any way as well. So if we want to, we can go variation mode in our loudness controller. You can hear an immediate volume increase just because I can now control the loudness. So you can actually hear something too with preset 1 in particular, where you have a little envelope just for the modulation of your frequency modulation of your oscillators, and you get this really cool kind of hear it dies out when I let off a key. So it's kind of a cool thing about preset 1. Preset 1 is the only preset that has the little envelope for the frequency modulation. So here's preset 2 through the mode filter. And like I say, it's probably the better one. We can use the sustain pedal. So there's preset 2 through the mode filter. Here's organ to the modes. We got harpsichord. Then we got funk. We got clavichord to the filters. Once again, you can hear that dynamic. Then we got Vox Humana, which still is using the Vibes filter, because most people always went direct output, even Gary Newman, when he used Vox Humana. We can combine it with direct output though. Just kind of get a little different tone there. We got preset 8 to the mode filter. So there's your presets. Like I said, they're not very impressive. What's really impressive with the Polymoog is programming. When you get into the manual mode, which is preset 9, it turns everything on the sliders. So that's when this thing really, to my opinion, when it's really magical and cool. But there's your presets to the mode filters. We've also got program VCF settings. So we're in VCF now, and so here's your VCF on preset 1. And you'll notice I got it panned a little bit to the right. So that's preset 2 to the VCF. Here's preset 3. That's got a little envelope on it. We got preset 4. We got funk, which has a sample and hold pattern. So there's funk, here's clavichord. So this also brings up something in the poly pedal as well, since you've got these features, is you'll notice that this is a multi-trigger unless I hit the trigger mode pedal. So if I hold down a key, because I'm holding down this lower key, and you can hear the envelope generator for the filter reset. Let me let the train get by. So if I hit this pedal, here's the trigger mode pedal, you'll notice that now when I hold in a lower note, it won't reset the envelope of the filter. So that's kind of a nice feature of the poly pedal. So that's preset 6, here's preset 7. Now custom program Vox Humana with almost like a phaser simulation of the filter. And that's all custom programming. So that's something I do to these in particular. All right, here's brass. If we combine the waveforms, for some odd reason they programmed preset 8 just with the sawtooth only, but it's actually got programming for the variable pulse. I don't know why they didn't go in and program them both. But you can hear that pulse width modulation. So anyways, there's the presets there to the filters. Then we've got the, I'll show you just the resonator and the filter and everything in a variation mode. So if we go back to variation mode, I'll get it set up here. So here's direct output. So we're back in direct output. Here's the resonator. So you've got high pass, band pass, and low pass. We'll bring it down by section here. So we've got just the, we'll start with the lows. So we got the cutoff frequency and emphasis. So that's your low section. Here's your mids. So that's your mid section, and here's your highs. When you combine them together, so that's your resonator section. We can actually do keyboard splits on it as well, so we can have the lower, for example, it'll be just the resonator on just these lower keys up to this key here. So if we anything past that, though, you'll see we don't have any sound. So what we'll do is we'll put the resonator on the low end, we'll put the filter on the upper. We'll put key tracking on the filter. And then this gets into your external keyboard circuit. So if you had another external synth plugged into it, you can hear that the filter tracks the keyboard, what's using the same circuit that's used for external synthesizers. You've also got external glide over here. So if we go here and this also brings us back to our oscillator section 2. You see these wave shape selectors for lower and upper. So we can make just the low end have the sawtooth, the upper end have the variable pulse. So there's just the sawtooth. We can do right the opposite. Combined. What I like to do though is put just a little bit of reverb on the filter. Since I got this mixer, I can. So put just a little reverb on that filter. So we've got it kind of fixed like that. We can also do right the opposite. We can put the filter on the lower keys and have the resonator on the upper keys. So now you hear the filter down here. Now we got the, you hear the key, the filter tracking the keys on the low end now. So we'll take the tracking off the filter. We'll put an envelope generator on the filter because we have this little envelope generator. Set everything to 0. We'll make it have a slow attack, fast decay, make it have a little bit of a slow attack and slow decay. Turn the reverb back off the filter. Now put a little reverb actually on the resonator. So bring up some. One other thing I'd like to kind of show off too here is actually the polypedal functions. So there's some hidden functions you can do with your polypedal and a 203A Polymoog. This is something that I use quite often, but just kind of want to share this. I don't know if I've ever really shared this or not. So on the back of a 203A, you actually have a jack called modulation amount. And what I use is I use the filter plug of the polypedal, and it actually allows me to control modulation amounts externally. So as you can see, I've got the filter button highlighted there. It's on. So now if I play some notes and we bring up this pedal, you won't hear modulation until I bring this pedal up. And you can actually vary the amount with this pedal. So really handy. Let me bring the swell pedal back up there. And what's also nice is when you turn filter off, you're going to have modulation regardless. So function just like normal when you have the filter mode off when I'm using this for the modulation amount. As you heard, the swell pedal works. So there's your swell pedal. Something else you can do too, and I know you heard the trigger mode demoed in the when I was going through the presets and the filter. What the trigger mode does is actually, as mentioned in the video, is it gives you a single or multi-trigger. But what's also nice about it is you can invert this pedal. So you've got a control up here that says single or multi. So you can actually select it to single, and what that does is you hold a lower note and hit an upper note, you won't hear a re-trigger. It basically just inverts this pedal is what it does. So what would it mean is if you have it up, you're not pressing it. When you're in single mode, it's going to be a single trigger, and then if you push it, it's going to be multi. If you push this thing over to multi mode, it's going to be a multi-trigger until you hit the pedal, and it'll become a single trigger. So just kind of basically a inverted option of the trigger modes. And then what external synthesizer does is actually it turns on and off the S trigger on the output. So your output S trig, like if you had a mini Moog connected or a multi Moog or other Moog synthesizer, this is what's going to allow you to turn on and off the triggering of the external instrument. So it's just kind of a handy feature there as well. And of course then you got your pitch amount for your pitch mode. So when you have that engaged, that's how you actually adjust the range of your pedal. Now one note about the Polymoog is that if you set this all the way up, you'll find that your oscillators separate out, and that's normal. And what that is, that's just based off the design of the high frequency oscillator cards. The way the top octave synthesizer tracks with the phase lock loop of the reference oscillators, and basically once you hit a certain frequency, it no longer tracks the frequency of the reference oscillators due to the phase lock loop design, and so that's why you hear that kind of separation. So you can get a full octave out of it, but if you go past that, it's going to be, you'll hear this out of tune kind of function, and actually you fine tune it to where you don't hear separation in the oscillators. So that's kind of how that works as well. But I just want to take a minute here and go over some of those secret functions there, those hidden functions of the poly pedal. I use that filter mode for modulation quite often on my own setup. It's just a really handy feature of the Polymoog, especially when you're playing, double-handed chords or something and you want to control modulation externally. Really handy. But once again, Michael, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to restore this Polymoog for you. And for you guys that watch my videos, appreciate you watching, and there'll be more here to come here very soon. Take care.